Bonjour, everybody. Welcome to Show to V with Mike G, the show of life, the show of touring, the show of the life, the show of Whiskey Jimmy Russell, Cane Camp, lots of things. And today's guest is the wonderful Lindsey Johnson from Lush Life. Maybe you've heard of a couple of these things, right? Maybe you've heard of Cane Camp. You've heard of that? Have you heard of Camp Run Amok? How about Portland Cocktail Week? Heard of any of these things? Well, I have heard of these things, actually got to attend one of these things, and there is no finer group of people working in spirits for education and pushing the envelope for innovation in the sense of academia and spirits than Lindsey and her group at Lush Life. She took some time out of this, like, it is a hectic schedule, just kind of getting her in here because she's always on the road, always educating, always inspiring, and I am really thankful that she spent some time with me here at Show to V. So without further ado, let's give a listen to my interview with Lindsey Johnson of Lush Life.
It's very, very different.
Is it strange sitting in it, like, and talking into a mic? And it's almost like doing voiceover work, right?
Which I've also done voiceover work.
Oh, have you? Because you were sportscaster?
Yeah, I did a lot of that stuff. Yeah. But also as like a little kid, I did a lot of voiceover work and
Really?
Yeah, some radio commercials and some TV commercials and stuff. Yeah, so I'm not afraid of any of this.
Yeah, that's good. That's
good. I am afraid that I am losing my voice, but
no, it's not even typical. Raspy at all.
I think it's typical.
I didn't think whiskey helps, like, for some people, you know.
Always.
It's for some reason, I can't remember who. It might have been Axl Rose, actually. Ooh. But just they wouldn't track without some whiskey. Yeah,
right.
And this is a killer one. Yeah, it's really, really good.
So good.
So you've been on the road all day today, right?
Yes. Yeah, I started my day in Houston, Texas.
Yeah.
We were over at Bad News Bar, which is one of my favorite places in the whole wide world.
It's Matt something, right?
Justin Burrow.
Justin, thank you.
Yes.
So never met him, but he exudes personality even in the virtual social media realm.
Absolutely does. Justin's one of the realest guys in the business. Yeah. He will tell you exactly what he thinks.
Is he blunt as shit? He sounds real blunt. Yeah,
all the time. And I mean, I find it to be very charming, and it's really refreshing to hear exactly what somebody thinks all the time. And to be honest with you, I guess some people think that he's a little prickly, but I think he's just a mush. He is the sweetest, kindest person and always has a kind word and always has a hug and always has something really positive to say. So I personally don't see it.
It's strange. I would love, people told me that about Hank Cathy.
Uh-huh.
Right? Like
Hank's so sweet.
Right, but he's like ultra nice guy.
Yeah.
He's
I haven't seen that either.
I think someone told me one was like, man, you and Hank, you guys are not going to get along. You're going to bitch each other. I'm like, no, we love each other.
Great.
It's a wonderful relationship. So I really want to meet Justin at some point.
Oh, you
guys
him.
Were I'd love. I gotta go down there.
Yeah,
but you were doing Bar Smarts. This is like the first leg of this tour. I imagine this is like a second or third leg, right?
Sort of. So next year we're taking. So let me take like 3 really big steps back. We've been putting Portland Cocktail Week on now for 6 years.
Yeah.
And we are finally to the point that Portland cannot hold the number of people that want to come, which is really interesting.
What's capacity now? Like, where have you guys capped?
We're over 5,000 guests.
Holy shit.
It's a lot of people.
5,000 like relatively accepted.
Absolutely.
Official, and that's amazing.
These are all people who are members of the trade. Most of them are bartenders, head bartenders, owners, managers, those sorts. And then, of course, with that, there are also, folks who work in PR and supplier side,
a little bit of ancillary
side,
pieces
exactly,
of the industry
media.
and stuff,
a lot of really great people come. So that's really what comprises the 5,000. But there aren't 5,000 hotel rooms in Portland.
There are not.
There are not. So
I had to share a bed with somebody just to get in that one year, I think.
Yeah, and honestly, that's the challenge that we faced, and we realized it last year. And this year it became even more apparent, and we felt even better about making the announcement that we're going to actually take the show on the road.
No kidding.
Yeah. So this year we're going to be in 6 cities. Austin's going to be the third stop. First, we're in Baltimore in April. Then we're going to Phoenix in May.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah, then we'll be here in Austin in June, from June 12th through the 15th.
Wow.
And then we're going to Miami in August, Portland in September, and then the big one is in New York.
Because it can handle the capacity?
It's partially that it can handle the capacity, and partially I know people will come from London and Singapore,
sure,
great and from all over the world.
Easy direct flight into JFK or whatever.
Exactly. A lot of the consideration. I mean, you look at the cities that we picked. A lot of the consideration was for our guests and for their costs.
Right.
It's really expensive to fly to and stay in Portland.
Oh, dude, totally.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, well, Texas isn't so bad, but if you're coming from somewhere else, it's quite expensive. Yeah.
And we looked at it and we're like, well, there are really great hotel rooms on a lot of them in Miami. Yeah. Same goes for Baltimore. And Baltimore, man, you can stay in Baltimore for $100 a night, and it's gorgeous.
Really cheap. Yeah.
It's such a cool city, and no one goes there.
Well, we spent a couple days in Baltimore.
Sure.
And, but the hotel I stayed at was wonderful. It was one of the it's one of the kind of craftier ones. Had a great bar, and it's right downtown.
I bet it was the Monaco, the Kimpton.
It's the Kimpton. Yeah, it was absolutely the Kimpton. Yeah, beautiful.
It's a great
bar
hotel. Yeah, Brendan Dorr runs that bar, and
cool.
He's so cool. He's also the president of the USBG in Baltimore,
no kidding.
and he's just a great guy.
So you basically you have this event which I feel privileged. I was able to go a couple years ago and kind of attend, learn, socialize, all of this. It grew to a point where obviously it became immensely popular. Lots of people wanted to come in. The infrastructure simply couldn't handle it.
Right.
And so tell me how you broke it into these kind of separate cities. So what's that experience like for us, obviously in Austin? What's that going to be like?
Absolutely. So we're doing a couple of things different. We're not really like the party. I hate to sort of draw those lines, but when you come to Portland Cocktail Week, you're probably not coming for the party, right? Like there are parties and they're really fun.
No, but
you're coming for the education.
That actually is the primary reason, which is interesting because you wouldn't think that'd be the case.
That we are the only ones, I think, that people are really just coming in for the education.
Right.
So what we thought really long and hard about how we wanted that to come together in each one of these cities. And the first rule we made was no events after midnight. So all programming stops at midnight.
Wow. Okay.
No more than 2 events in an evening.
Okay.
Really strict rule about that.
Yeah.
We want to make sure that, and honestly, most of the events are like hosted dinner over here and
which
mashups.
is an amazing experience, right?
Those are so
Pairings, nice
fun.
Dishes. Yeah.
Those are so much fun.
Really killer stuff.
But the idea is that we don't want people. We're professionals, we're grown-ups. And if you want to go out and have a really great time and do your thing, you're absolutely allowed to. But we're really only hosting programming until midnight because we think you should go to bed and get up early the next day and be there in classes and on the trade show floor.
So it's very clear that the objective is about learning.
Absolutely.
And if anybody has the power to kind of bring people and coalesce the learning element of it and say, this is actually the primary reason we do this, is to get better at what we do, that would be Lush Life. So
I would hope so.
It's amazing. So what kind of Portland Cocktail Week is essentially a week. So in Austin, let's say, because this is the one, of course, I'm really interested in. Of course. How long does that run?
It'll start on Sunday. And really, Sunday is just the registration day. The trade show floor will be open, but there won't really be a lot of education that day. In the evenings, we'll have our mashups. That's one part of the programming for Portland Cocktail Week that people really love.
That's so cool,
we couldn't get rid of. I don't think we'll ever get rid of it because it's so much fun. And then we'll probably have another couple of little things here and there that evening. Then Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, we're going to have the trade show floor open, of course. But the main focus is the classes.
Do you know, have you booked so timeline?
I cannot disclose.
Okay, no problem. What about do you have an idea when it's going to occur in Austin?
Yes.
Okay.
So we'll be here June 12th through 15th.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Which is a Sunday through Wednesday. All of them are Sundays through Wednesdays.
Yeah.
It just makes the most sense for bartenders. You're not missing any of your money shifts. Also, we're not going to make you come for the whole time if you don't want. If you can come, if you live in Dallas and you can get down for Monday, come on down for Monday.
Yeah.
If you can't, if you can't be here for the whole 3.5 days, you don't have to be.
That's crazy.
We want to make sure. The goal here is to make sure that we're widening the net. I mean, I'm sure you've noticed all of our friends, the number one complaint of any cocktail bartender in any city in America is that there aren't enough bartenders to get behind their bar and work.
Understaffed. Totally.
So what we're trying to do is we're trying to get the servers in, the barbacks in, the owners, the GMs, the chefs, anybody who might want to get back there who might be able to catch the bug.
Very cool.
So of course we're focused on our head bartenders and the people who the people who have always been there. I like to joke that Portland Cocktail Week is this convention of head bartenders and managers because that's really what it
kind of is,
right?
Yeah.
We want to make sure that newer bartenders and barbacks and people who don't normally get the opportunity to take 6 days off from work, to fly across the country, to spend all that money, to make sure that those bartenders have the opportunity to come in and learn something from some of these really incredible people that have agreed to teach.
Here's I think one of the things that's quite different is, so you look at the other kind of, let's say, food festivals, although not exactly the same, but Austin's got at least two. The new one that's coming out from Transmission that they're going to be doing, and hopefully I'll be working on that a little bit. Let's see what happens there. But you guys have a strategy and an air of inclusion, which is the key, right? Because I think a lot of this stuff is so isolated and it's so restrictive and it's so exclusive. It's like, oh, well, you got to be really smart to get into this. But like, how does that help anybody out?
It doesn't.
You know?
It really doesn't.
Right?
I think you and I come from kind of the same background, right? We come from DIY punk scenes.
Dude, and exactly.
How do you grow a scene if you're just talking to each other all day? You can't. You don't, right?
Yeah. Justin Elliott, and I love this because I think it's such a funny thought and a funny picture. He talks about writing a play. He's like, dude, I got to write the play, I got to perform it, and perform it to all the people I already knew.
Exactly.
Right. It's just like a big, and I was like, it's a circle jerk, almost literally. It's just this really continuum of this stuff, you know? So it's a good way to bring more people in.
Well, I think we're doing a really good job as an industry of reaching out to people who come into the bar and come into the restaurant and getting them excited about cocktails, right?
For sure.
So we're creating this demand that we can't quite meet because we don't have enough people who are qualified to get back there and actually execute these brilliant, beautiful drinks that all of our friends are creating. And that's not the case everywhere. Of course, there are, I could list 1,000 bars in America where they're fine.
Yeah, the big cities are fine, but you talk about like coming just outside, go to Round Rock even, right? Like just like 20 minutes outside Austin. This is bound to be a huge staffing problem.
Absolutely. You know? And we want to make sure that if somebody's ordering an old-fashioned at a Chili's, they're going to get a good one.
Yeah.
And it's totally feasible. You can totally do that with what they have in the back bar, right?
Yeah, it's not a difficult thing. It's not like you don't have the materials needed to do it.
Exactly. So I think we encourage those guys to come be a part of this. We encourage even people who work in the off-premise, people who work in a liquor store who are maybe guiding people the wrong way. Let's give them the tools. Because they don't know yet. Yeah, exactly. Let's give them the tools and resources to be as knowledgeable as our friends who are running these amazing bar programs.
Right. So it almost feels like philanthropy. Right? Like, I mean, because here's the thing. Here's kind of the dichotomy is that obviously brands have to get involved because you have to have sponsorships and these kinds of things. But also at the same time, you want to preserve what is a humane and a humanist element, right?
Absolutely.
You want people to learn and all this. So to me, it sounds that's a tad bit of a conflict. How do you kind of balance those things out?
Well, I think that our big step this year and the way that we really approached, because that really is the core issue, right?
Yeah, sure.
How do we balance bringing in enough money to get the venue, to pay for the things,
there's some, to pay
the salaries. I mean, we employ a bunch of people from the industry, making sure that we can pay those salaries and take care of them. So balancing that financial constraint while also making sure that we're kind of giving this noise-free education.
Right.
And a big step for us is saying, you know what, sponsors, we love you and we want you to submit class ideas.
Yeah.
But ultimately, you're not allowed to pay to sponsor a class.
Yeah, you can't buy your way through it. If there are many brands that are absolutely okay about trying to elevate the category, which is a different thing. Like, that's far more appropriate, I
mean, step one for us was taking alcohol out of the classroom, right? That was step one.
Like, literally taking it out?
Taking it out of the classroom. You do not get drinks. You do not get served at any class that we have.
That's great.
I think over the last 3 years, there have been 2 exceptions.
Yeah.
And it was because it was just there had to be liquor served. There was no other way around it.
Yeah.
But yeah, for the most part, more than 99% of the classes that we've put out have not had liquor served in them. And we're going to keep that trend going.
So it's interesting and it's refreshing to see what is kind of implicitly a focus on health, right? Because you're saying this is really about a scenario in which let's take this in an academic perspective, and let's all learn clear-headed, right? Like, let's not let this other stuff influence.
Exactly.
What where did that come from? Where did that strategy of trying to keep it healthy too and centered, where did that come from?
Sure. I think it came from us looking at the kind of education that we saw and saying, we have a lot of these really great brand trainings. We have a lot of these really great vertical tastings, category trainings. Right. We have a lot of opportunities. I mean, the Bar 5-Day, there's nothing better in the world than getting to learn how to taste all those spirits and understanding what they're all made of. There's no reason for me to offer that kind of education because somebody else is doing it better than I'm ever going to do.
That's perfect. That's right? Great. Yeah.
I'm not interested in teaching that. The thing that we focus on, the thing that I'm continually interested in is how we look at ourselves as an industry and how we look at how we take that next step in our career.
Right.
So really it's career training. How do I become a better bar manager?
Great.
How do I become a better bar owner? Do I want to become a bar owner? Am I interested in starting my own line of gin? How do I do that? How do I take those steps? What are those steps?
So it's a matter, you guys are essentially mentoring people in career pathing.
It's much more about, absolutely. It's much more about careers and it's much more about creating a path than it is about learning about the spirit that goes in the glass, because I feel like that's covered.
Sure. I mean, we're in an era of technology, of information. We can find out anything we want about that. So, but the thing that isn't so clear is what's the right path for me.
Exactly.
That's a really valuable thing. I get a lot of questions from entrepreneurs and things. It's like, well, what's the next step? I want to do this thing. I want to make this thing. And so you guys coming in to provide these services, I mean, that could be incredibly valuable.
The first step for us was building out that sort of baseline of education. So you think you want to be a blank, right? You think you want to be a bar owner.
Yes, absolutely.
You think you want to be a brand ambassador. You think you want to be a brand owner. Okay, well, let's talk to people who are actually in those roles and see what it's actually like.
Sure,
right?
absolutely.
And that's where we started 3 years ago. And this year we added a master's level of programming that sort of took it to that next level. So it was more appropriate for like people who already owned a bar but are looking to open their second or third or who just really wanted to hone their skills and talk to their peers and learn from their peers, directly from their peers. So that's been really great for us, seeing that, okay, we can have programming that's not just tracked. So not just, this kind of career, this kind of career, this kind of career, which was something that we're going to continue to do is track programming. But we can also offer different levels.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people who quite simply don't know how liquor is made. They don't, they work in a bar and they don't know.
They want to get to the fundamentals. Yeah.
And it's really important that we provide those fundamentals.
Right.
But I would much rather provide the fundamentals of how do I do my job better than how do I taste this spirit better? How do I learn about this product better?
You're promoting utility.
Absolutely.
Which is brilliant.
And I think they're programs like Bar Smarts is awesome. I don't know if you've ever taken any of those classes.
No, I've just read about it.
It's so good, man. It's what Pernod Ricard is doing with that program. I feel like laid the groundwork for a lot of what we're doing now.
Yeah.
The program is revolutionary. It goes in and it teaches the basics. This is a column still. This is a pot still. This is how this works. This is how that works.
Yeah.
This is what gin is. This is what.
Yeah.
It's such a great program that it would be silly for me to offer that program. And you should go to Bar Smarts. It's way better.
Right. Are you guys so is this? How do they feel about what you're trying to do?
I think they look at us the same way we look at them, as we're providing the other side of it. And quite frankly, for a partner like Pernod Ricard, they look at this as creating longevity for the people that we're investing in, right? So they're investing in people just like we're investing in people, right? So the idea here is that they invest in your education because they want your bar to succeed.
Yeah.
Because if your bar succeeds, it sells more Beefeater, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
Oh, that's it's a great way to look at it.
And really, we work with partners who are like that. You can look through the roster of our sponsors.
They're always great. They're always really great.
It's people who get it and people who promote education. We certainly have a lot of fun things that happen at all of our programs, but they ultimately, end of the day, we're all trying to do the same thing, which is to keep the momentum behind the cocktail world going.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
And so is it nice being back in Texas? So we've had some chats, right? Like we have some rapport. I'm not going into this cold, which sometimes I do. And it's always like, well, shit, what am I going to ask?
Right.
But so it's nice to be back in Texas. I mean,
absolutely.
A home away from home because you grew up here, right?
Texas is my favorite place on earth.
Yeah.
I don't know that will exactly. I don't know that will ever change.
Yeah.
I grew up in Dallas.
Yeah,
I went to high school in Dallas, and I love Dallas. I'm actually like very partial to Dallas. I was just there 2 days ago.
Midnight Rambler. I saw some pictures from
it's
up there.
Such a great bar.
Was it nice being back?
It's always nice being back.
You have family still in Dallas?
I don't. All my family is up in New York.
Oh, they moved? Okay.
Yeah. My whole family is from New York originally. They're all from the city in Long Island. And my parents moved back when I went to college.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we were sort of the black sheep. We were the only ones who left New York.
Oh, man.
But we found our way back around the time I turned 18. But yeah.
Well, so were you, because I think about it, just, there isn't a more, I'm just going to put it this way, iconic female figure in this industry. I think you've got such a wonderful reputation and people really trust what you're doing. And so
thank you.
When that entrepreneurial spirit, like when did you start understanding that that's what you had? That was the itch.
Sure.
Was that a high school thing or was that when you got into college?
I feel like I've always had these sort of inklings that this is where I was going to head.
Yeah.
My mother was an entrepreneur.
Oh yeah. What did she do?
She owned a toy store when I was a kid.
Oh, cool.
And it was really cool to see my mom just decide one day she's going to open this toy store and build it on her own.
That's so
amazing.
I mean,
my dad definitely helped a ton. And my family, we're all very supportive.
You guys are really close.
We are. Right? We're really, really close. So, it was definitely a family effort. I totally learned how to work the cash register at 8 years old. And I loved it. I mean, what better scenario in life, right? To be an 8-year-old with a toy store.
Not so bad, yeah.
But I saw that I could go out and do that if I wanted.
Yeah.
If I wanted, I could build something from scratch. And it wouldn't be, I can do it. Yeah. If she can do it, I can do it. And that's what my mom always taught me.
It's amazing.
So I was really lucky with that. And, I was always pretty involved, like I said, with DIY and hardcore scenes.
Yeah. So I just, because I love nerding out about music. Of
course.
What would, do you have any seminal moments where you're at a show and you're like, dude, I got to do something with this?
Oh, man.
Especially in Dallas, because I talked to Jeff Boley a bit because he grew up in, he was in Dallas and in that scene and stuff. But I have a feeling
Dallas was actually, for me, I was a little less in it in Dallas, just to be completely honest. I was very good in Dallas. I was
You're behaving yourself.
I was a straight A student and was on the basketball team and ran the television station, but also went to a lot of shows.
Yeah.
But I wasn't as involved in the scene there. It was really once I got back up to Long Island, and it was one of those things.
Better bands up there, frankly.
It was kind of the time and the place, right? It was Long Island in the mid 2000s. And it was sort of like the time, right?
Because that's, I'm trying to think. So thinking of 2004, 2000. Well, Helmet had passed. Quicksand is up there. You get Sick of It All, Cro-Mags, stuff like
all
that.
All of that, yeah. I mean, it was near the end of a lot of that.
Yes.
And the beginning of a lot of things that we probably shouldn't speak of that I don't love as much. I'm not as excited about. But I worked in a bar that was a hardcore bar,
no kidding.
And and it was me and this girl, Kat, who was like, oh my goodness, she must have weighed 90 pounds and little blonde thing, and she was the bouncer, the door person.
Amazing.
It was me and
she
her.
She probably could take anybody. Huh?
Oh, she was great.
Yeah,
she was killer. But yeah, it was the two of us in there every Wednesday, Thursday night, and those were the two nights where it was all hardcore punk rock. And it was it was a lot of fun. The rest of the time, it was kind of like this weird new wave bar, which I think is part of why I maybe don't love that kind of music so much.
Does the Cure just irk you to no end?
Let's not talk about that, because I want Justin Burrow to love me after this interview, and I don't want to say too much.
Man, I listen. In full disclosure, I had never listened to Disintegration. And I was coming back on a flight from London, and I watched Ant-Man because there was like nothing else to watch on the United. And I was like, well, I love Paul Rudd. Who doesn't love Paul Rudd? And so there's somehow some like real moving scene with Disintegration playing, and I was like, well, I'm going to try to listen to this. Right. I like The Cure, going back. But then I listened to that record, I'm like, I'm not going to. I'm gonna have to get another cup of coffee. This is a snooze fest, and it's like it is like a seminal record for so many people.
So many people, yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't get it. And I get The Cure. I totally get The Cure. But I do not get that record. It's so sleepy.
I like The Cure too. They're not on my list of not favorites. Yeah. But there are some that
are certainly like.
I have a lot of friends who really like new wave, and I am. I actually
love new. I mean, it depends, I guess.
I've pulled this quote out twice this week because I'm traveling with my whole team. Right. But Craig Finn says on one of his records, "In dying, you don't have to deal with new wave for a second time." I kind of feel that way.
Just once is fine. Thank you, everybody.
Once was more than enough.
See, that's how I feel about like this new neo hardcore stuff.
Yeah.
Once was fine. Yeah. Like I got my fix in the 80s and the 90s and stuff. And so, but you've got this entrepreneurial spirit. You're kind of learning it by example. You're immersed in the business at a young age. And you go and you kind of do the media route, though, for a while, right?
Yeah. I mean, I come from media, right? So I worked at WFA in Dallas, and I I come from journalism, right?
Yeah.
That's what I went to school for. I'm a journalist.
What drew you to journalism, rather?
I've been thinking a lot about that lately because it's a funny career path to pick at this point in history, right?
Now it is.
But even in 2000 when I picked journalism as my career path, it was a funny thing to pick because it's a struggling industry, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
I think it's because there's a code of ethics. I think it's because at its core, journalism is one of the things that, at least to idealistic 18-year-old me, looks like this really moral and ethical place where you can stand the high ground and you can do something really good for people, right?
Yeah, that's great. That's wonderful.
I think that was really the motivation more than anything else. Now I look at that and I'm like, okay, so that's not realistic.
Did you go back and look at it and say, like, man, maybe that was slightly naive?
I loved being a journalist. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It got a little repetitive for me, to be completely honest. It was just especially because I was in broadcast.
Oh, right.
And
that's strange because it's not that it's uninspired, but it's so rehearsed and like you just kind of do the same thing all the time.
I think the hardest part for me was the hurdles, right? To get to a place where you weren't doing that rehearsed over and over and over again kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Once you get to a certain point, it's a very engaging, very interesting, very challenging field.
Sure.
But certainly if you're, covering cat in tree in Amarillo, it's not that compelling.
But it's still essential for Amarillo at that time.
Absolutely.
Is that where you went to school in Amarillo?
No. I went to the University of Missouri.
No hate on Amarillo.
No. I love Amarillo.
Yeah, it's fine. Amarillo.
I actually picked that because my advisor told me that even though I'd worked at a TV station in Dallas, that once I was done with school, I would have to go back to the small markets, and Amarillo was the example he used. I was like,
Did you go to college in Dallas then?
No. I'm University of Missouri.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's
a journalism school.
Yeah,
that's why I went there.
Did you look around a bit and kind of that was the
clear choice. I mean, they were the only one that had an affiliate on campus, so a network affiliate on campus. So I didn't want to take a step back. So I wanted to get up there.
Right.
It was between that and NYU, and NYU would have been a choice to be near my family, and would have been a choice to be a little bit more independent and go to New York City.
Yeah, it's a different thing. I don't know if you feel this way, because I've lived away from my family for a long time, but it being an NYU, perhaps it's like just a tad easier.
It had nothing to do with that. Honestly, I would have loved to have been near my family. That would have been like the icing on the cake.
Amazing, right?
But honestly, what it came down to was Mizzou was free and NYU was NYU prices.
We all look at money at some point,
right?
Right.
I wanted to leave without debt, and I was lucky enough to be able to do that.
Well, out of the two of us, I'm really happy for you that you left school without debt.
Yeah, that was a tricky thing.
I didn't learn the lesson. I kept the key. I was like, well, I'll get a master's degree. Yeah, just put it on my tab.
Oh my goodness, yeah. And it was a choice that I made back then that I'm actually really happy about.
Yeah.
And it serves me well. I use those skills every day.
Sure.
I think I make my team crazy, like moving the comma and like fixing punctuation in everybody's work.
Yeah.
But it's there's skills that you learn every day, and really the main skill is communication and being able to clearly communicate with others.
Being clear, concise, and compelling. Right,
Always.
Which is an interesting thing. So was it the standard 4-year thing? It seems like you probably finished it pretty quick.
I had my 4 years. I had a great time. Yeah.
How was it socially? Were you kind of getting exposed? Because it seems like maybe the aha moment hadn't happened yet with regard to like cocktails.
It hadn't. With cocktails, it certainly hadn't. That actually came. My best friend, Alan Katz, who is there are 2 Alan Katz in our business. Both are amazing.
Which is the gin one?
Gin Alan Katz is not my best friend, but I adore him. I actually saw him last week. He's just the smartest, most interesting guy in the room. No matter what room you're in, he's the most interesting guy in the world. But my Alan lives on the other side of the country. He's opening a bar in Las Vegas right now.
Oh, cool.
He ran Kanya in LA for a little while, and he ran Fatty Crab in New York for a long time.
Nice.
He's got this crazy resume. Crazy resume.
So where'd you guys meet?
So I met Alan on Long Island doing all that DIY music stuff. Yeah. And Alan, oh man, he's just the smartest person. Something about that name, Alan Katz, smart people.
I suppose so. I think that's what my therapist's name is.
See, there we go. But yeah, I met Alan, and Alan was working at the time under this really amazing older gentleman who I had no idea who he was. He was just this very charming, lovely person who always had a smile and made the best Manhattan you've ever had. I would tell these stories about the good old days of cocktails and the Rainbow Room. And it was Dale DeGroff, of course, right?
The actor, the consummate actor, right?
Oh, man. And Dale, between Alan and Dale, I fell in love. I fell in love with the business.
Great personalities.
Right?
You know?
And the two of them really talked me into taking a step away from the ad agency where I was working and starting my own company where they wanted media creation, they wanted video creation, that sort of thing that catered to bartenders and bartending.
Like more or less education, I guess.
Exactly.
Right.
Really. Yeah. And those were our first steps. We started doing those videos. Oh my goodness. That was in 2006.
Oh, cool.
So the company is now 10 years old.
Yeah, that's amazing. And so the company, as you and I know, but for maybe some of the listeners that don't know, Lush Life
Productions.
Founded in 2006.
Yep.
You guys have offices on both coasts, right?
We're in New York, Portland, and Louisville now.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Yeah.
Well, Louisville.
I
think that's just a prep project there.
A little bit.
So you can get a little bit closer to the bourbon out there, right?
Closer to the bourbon, closer to home. I just bought a house there.
Did you really?
I did.
Oh, is that... Well, we've talked sometimes. So... Lovely country.
Absolutely.
Now I'm going to be in full disclosure. I haven't been out there, and
got to come visit.
I have to, and perhaps
I've
I'll
got
ask
3
you
bedrooms
for a couch or something to crash on.
I have 4 bedrooms. There's one with your name on it. Whenever you want to come out.
Amazing. Oh, so I'm there. I'm totally
perfect.
There. So what is it about? Do you see something for yourself in the future, like in 20 years from now in Louisville? Is that why you
Absolutely.
bought a house?
I personally really love that part of the country.
Yeah.
When my mom ran the toy store and when I was a kid, I lived in St. Louis, which is not far away. I really do love the Midwest. It's just a beautiful part of the country and something that I really love. You know, we have another project that is very near and dear to my heart called Camp Run Amok.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And that's a bartender summer camp that brings 300 bartenders down to learn how to make whiskey and interact. And it's really a networking event at its core, community building.
People talk about that all year.
It's my favorite thing.
You have managed to create at least 2 things that people talk about all year. Well, and you're doing Cane Camp.
We are. Cane Camp's the newer one. Yeah, and that's
so from my clarity and peace of mind.
Sure.
So we're talking Portland Cocktail Week, which is now broken up into some satellite.
Yep. It's called Bar Institute, and it will be in those 6 cities.
Bar Institute, brilliant. And so you got. I'm looking forward to June 12th. You said right in Austin, absolutely.
Yep.
Hey, if you want me to pontificate for an hour, let me know, and I'll help out the crew.
Perfect.
Yeah, it'd be wonderful.
So we need that.
Yeah. And then you have Camp Run Amok, which looked like 2 sessions this year?
And this year we're actually going to split the sessions, one in May and one in September.
Oh, cool. Okay.
I want them to actually see distillation.
Yeah,
some of them at least.
Which is a brilliant thing.
I'm so excited.
To taste it and understand how it develops.
To see it as it comes off the still, I think is so important.
And then you've got Cane Camp. Is that another one?
Cane Camp.
You're the devotion and the love of rum. So
absolutely. Puerto Rican rum specifically.
Which is brilliant, yeah.
Love it, yeah.
When did that start?
This was the first year. June was the first time.
Okay. Cool.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Don Q, was that one of the big partners?
Don Q, Ron de Barrilito, Medalla beer, and then coffee production are our focuses while we're down there. The Rums of Puerto Rico, along with, of course, our partners at Don Q, helped us put that whole thing together. And it's so fun, man. It's so fun.
Is that a week as well?
It's 7 full days. Okay. That's a little bit longer. And it's because there's just so much to do.
Right.
And really, those guys are fighting the good fight. Talk about good partners, man. They are... I think the most green distillery currently in the world.
I think so. Here's one of the things I think is this is an amazing story, and this is an anecdote I've told other people since we chatted last time you were in town. So Bacardi, so I look at this the same way that most people look at this in the industry.
Sure.
But they were making flavored rums in a natural sense. They were essentially steeping and then filtering.
Right, exactly.
They didn't have a flavor house.
No, and that's so funny.
Is that crazy?
Well, the first time I went to the distillery, the Don Q distillery, I walk in and we're talking about the different experiences that our guests are going to have. And they're like, oh, well, we know that these really smart, savvy bartenders aren't interested in flavored rum. And I said, well, what's your process? Tell me about it.
Right.
Because you're doing everything else the right way. It would be weird to
just humor me. Let's see how it goes. Yeah.
And they take me to the lab where Sylvia, who is their distiller for, I'm not going to say how long because she's so fabulous. She could pass for 30.
For a long time.
For a very long time. She's been working there since she was 19.
Oh, that's killer.
Is one of the leads at the distillery. She brings us to the lab and she's like, oh yeah, what we do is we take this hand-picked mint and we steep it in the rum and then we pull it out and then we taste it. And if it needs more, we put it back in.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, you need to show people this.
That resonates with people.
Exactly.
And the thing that I felt was like so bizarre, it's just insanely bizarre, is that they felt somehow they were making an inferior product because they didn't have the money or the facility to go and use artificial flavoring.
They were worried that it wouldn't look as polished. And
that's so
guys,
insane.
No, this is the good. And they know that they're doing it the right way, and they're proud that they're doing it the right way. It's just so funny that there is that disconnect, that moment of disconnect.
And that's like Western culture in a sense,
exactly,
right?
Yeah.
Like, well, but they're not Botox, they're not perfect, they're not airbrushed.
Right.
Like, no, give me the
real
grit,
mint.
give me the organic elements, right?
Exactly. I mean, you walk by on the days they're doing the coconut and stuff. It's ridiculous. It's totally ridiculous what they do.
Yeah.
And the distillery itself is so real. It's rusty and old, and parts of it are new, and parts of it are old, and it's you can see the history there. You can see, and it's a working distillery. They don't do tours. They don't have a gift shop. They're no
That's
animatronics.
Awesome. It's functional. Again, going back to utility.
Yeah, exactly. Right? And there is nothing there that is not used every single day.
Yeah.
And there is not a person there that Roberto, who owns the distillery, doesn't know personally. You go on a tour through, and he's asking about their kids and how school is going, and
so it's a good organization.
Everything
good
about
culture,
them is good.
like everything.
They're great people. Family is exactly right. That's who
wonderful.
they are. And they were sweet enough to invite 50 new members of their family in last year. It was very cool.
But that's amazing for them.
Really
it's amazing for the bartenders or whomever in the industry.
Absolutely.
Go out there. I would love to go out there. And so I'm just, I'm making a mental checklist. Like, well, now maybe I got a room to stay in Louisville. That's
you do. You
check.
do.
There we go. Check. And then maybe I can find a place to stay in Puerto Rico.
I can certainly point you to the right direction.
Oh, yeah.
And one of my favorite bars in the world is in Old San Juan, La Factoria.
What kind of bar is it?
It's a cocktail bar.
Yeah.
That totally short sells it. Let me.
Yeah, what kind of experience is it?
Sure. So you walk into La Factoria, and it's a bar that's been operating for generations and generations and generations. Wow. It's old. It's beautiful. The paint is sort of peeling, but in like a really beautiful, strategic kind of way. It looks like
when you buy stonewashed jeans,
right?
And potentially,
It looks like they paid a designer $1 million to
that's amazing.
Stucco this place, but it's just the way it is. It's just authentically this. And the guys who run the bar, there's this first room that's the cocktail bar. It's all open air because you're in Puerto Rico. Right. It's gorgeous.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Really beautiful music, very thoughtful cocktails. Just one of the most stunning experiences, having a beautiful drink there with amazing people who are all from Puerto Rico. It's where locals go. It's where tourists go. It's where everybody goes, right? It's just this.
It's a landmark.
It is. It really is. And then you go through the door and there's another bar.
Oh.
And the other bar is like a wine bar, and then there's another bar that's like a library bar, and then there's another
kidding.
and they've got plans for what's coming next. So
it's gonna be incredible.
These guys are the real deal.
So you have to absolutely go there.
La Factoria is a must go. I voted on World's Best Bars this year. It was my number one pick for World's Best Bar. Yeah,
it's amazing.
It's my number one bar.
That's brilliant.
I love it.
What do you? I mean, gosh, it's funny because it's like, what kinds of questions should I ask Lindsey? Like, what are those underhand softball pitch questions? But I mean, I got back from London and this week, and I went to White Lion.
Great.
And my life was changed. I'm not gonna fucking discount it, dude. Like, it was
it's
changed.
Amazing.
I got to. Ian was here with Simon Ford. I had met Ian, but he was at the Townsend.
Sure,
Justin and I were big friends, and so I was like, I went out there and I'm like, hey, you're the guy that was here, and now I'm coming to London to hang out. And not only is he an awesome dude, only 28, which kills me, that he's able to do Dandelion and White Lion at 28. But that bar changed my life. And so, in other words, the question really is, I know why it did for me, and that was because it is an absence of brands in that bar.
Okay, right.
But what is it for you that makes that amazing experience in a bar that you'd like to go back again and again?
Sure. I think when I'm looking at that really seminal experience in a bar, the most important thing for me is always authenticity, and I think that goes back to kind of everything else.
That it's not
else, right?
Contrived. That it's honest.
Just who they are, right? And it's what they're trying to do. I've spent a lot of this year, especially because of the programming we're doing next year, thinking about how do we drive drinking forward? How do we get in more places? How do we get cocktails in movie theaters and in casual dining? Always Bill Norris. That's always the right answer. That guy is always the right answer. But how do we think of ways to push drinking culture forward? And the bars that have been most interesting to me in the last year are those that are doing that. So Alamo Draft House, absolutely.
Yeah,
to me,
brilliant. What, like I can get popcorn, a hot dog, and a wonderful rusty nail?
Game changer. Yeah,
Done.
it's incredible.
Done.
That to me right now is the most interesting thing happening.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to say that it's one thing over another because,
Sure.
you go to a place like Whitechapel in San Francisco, which I was at last week.
Yes, we have a great relationship with those guys.
Man, is that place amazing? It's so good.
Yeah.
Everything about it is so painstakingly thought through.
I love that.
Every piece of that bar somebody thought about and placed just the way it is and made that drink just the way it's so thoughtful. And there's something so special about something so thoughtful. I think somebody could walk in there and be like, oh, this is a little, contrived because it's so themed. It's not.
No,
everything
it feels
about that
totally
is real.
Earnest.
It feels so real. That to me is what speaks. That's really the thing that I'm looking for. So it's not something you can really put your finger on and say,
no, but I like
this.
Right?
Exactly.
Like, I kind of don't know why I like certain bands. Like I don't really know why I like The Fix or something. Or I know I like it, but I know I like it.
Yeah.
And because it always feels like really, really honest and connected. So flipping that though, what really spells out a problematic experience in a bar to you? Like you step in and you just kind of know it's not going to be the right.
I mean, usually when you walk into a bar and the service just isn't really there, that first point of service, if you don't put a glass of water in front of me, unless it's California where it's illegal, which I understand.
And you got to ask for it, right?
If you're not putting a glass of water down, I'm probably like a little put off right away.
Because how smart is it to give? It's a business thing.
It is.
Because if I keep you hydrated, you're gonna keep drinking.
Exactly. And to speak to kind of the other side of that coin, if somebody pours me 2 or 3 drinks that are like half green chartreuse, where I know the pour cost is through the roof, right?
Right. Sorry.
It hurts my heart because I'm like, this bar won't, even as much as I love this bar, it won't exist in a year.
Yeah.
So
just not
that's
cost effective.
Exactly. So when I see those poor decisions, those poor business decisions, that's kind of a place where I get a little bit like, oh, please don't do that. And another thing, and I say this to everybody who will listen, don't comp me drinks. Quit it.
Interesting.
Quit it. I don't like it when you buy my drinks.
I'm pretty sure everybody would comp you drinks too. I could just see it now. Now
so
I know
sweet.
how to dress because I'll just put like a red haired wig on and be like, "Hey, I'm from the Lush Life. Give me a drink."
But I want your bar to make money.
Yeah, of course.
And, I think there's actually a really great seminar that Chris Bostic put together at Golden State of Cocktails last year about what the correct circumstances are for comping a drink.
That's right. Yeah.
Man, was that great, because he got up there and he said, I don't comp anybody at my bar. I don't care who you are. And he's like, I have industry specials that are on every single day.
Right.
You can get a beer and a shot for $5, $6. I don't know exactly the price.
Deal. It's a steal.
A steal, right? For people in the know, it's a steal, right? And we're going to treat you nice and you're going to have a great time. But ultimately, my bar is going to make money. And I just was like, preach. Yeah. That is exactly right. That's the way it should be.
Yeah, it's great. It's a great thing.
He's always right, too.
No, Chris is, man, I love Chris.
Everybody in Austin, this is the problem.
Yeah,
you got too
we're
many
all
good ones.
kind of cool. That's probably the only reason I wanted to ever start a podcast, because I've got so many great people around me.
There's so many good people here.
It's wonderful. Well, so speaking of good people, we'll take this moment to talk about the bottle that we've selected. And so I was very envious and jealous I didn't make it out to the cocktail week this year. But I did see that Jimmy Russell made it out.
Oh, he did.
Dude, that guy, I don't know. He's in his 90s now. Is that right?
Pushing
early, maybe 88, 89.
He's a very spry.
Whatever age
he is, he's very spry. He works. He still works.
He does, and that's what keeps him fresh.
Yeah, he works in the distillery. I mean, I've seen him roll a barrel. I mean, it's incredible.
It's insane.
Incredible.
But he's somebody that I would just love to give an hour, man, just to chat.
Well, the coolest thing about when I got to see him in Portland Cocktail Week is that it wasn't just him; it was him, his son, and his grandson, and all three of them. Yeah, all three of them are working for the brand right now.
Yeah, it's great.
It's staying in the family, and there's something so special about that.
Absolutely.
And there are things that I think Jimmy has passed on to Eddie that he wouldn't pass on to a tech coming in and helping out at the distillery.
You can't be as frank. You can't be as harsh, but you also can't be as loving.
Exactly.
Right? It's the balance of all of that stuff.
Absolutely.
And so I think that perfectly parlays into, so today I got a call. I have a dealer, right? I call him my dealer. And lots of people got weed dealers. Fine. Good. I got a whiskey dealer.
Of course.
And he calls me and he's like, hey, I just got this bottle, and are you interested? I'm like, wait, what is it? And so he begins to regale me of this tale of 40 bottles making it into Austin.
Amazing.
And there is this Russell's Reserve distilled in 1998 and barreled for 15 years. Now, it's been in stainless for 2, if I understand correctly, and then only 2,000 bottles are out there. So I was like, yeah, all right. No, that's good. Let's do that.
I need that.
Let's do that. He goes, it's like, my cost is this. I'm like, understood. Let's just do that. Let's just do that. So in honor of Jimmy,
absolutely,
what many have said from what I've read about this particular bottle, this Russell's Reserve straight bourbon, it is at 51.1%. It is creamy, caramelly. It is really lovely, and to many, the best Russell's Reserve ever. What do you think?
It's exceptional.
It's great, right?
There's no other word for it. This is exceptionally good.
It's so good.
I think your descriptors are pretty dead on.
I just read the label.
It is though. It's very creamy. It's very. It's like
it is the creamiest wild turkey I've ever had.
Right, and part of what I love about wild turkey is that it's got that backbone.
Yes,
it's got that personality, and it's real spunky, just
you
like
always
Jimmy.
Know. Yeah,
right?
You always know it's wild turkey for sure.
It's got his personality, like that. That's how I think of him every time I have a sip, because it's that real funny. It's like it's got a sense of humor, but it's big and it's strong, and it tells you it's there. It announces that it's right there.
But it's still
this is
it
so
has
smooth.
a silky, lovable center to this bourbon.
Exactly.
That's like so key in bourbon, and that's one of the reasons that I love it.
Same.
It's so good, so good. Well, so one of the things I always wonder, because God, I don't know of a bigger jet setter than you. I don't know if that's an insult or a compliment or what.
I don't know. These days it kind of feels like both.
Yeah. You're like the Rolling Stones, man. You're on tour 10 months out of the year.
Yeah. We're definitely on the road. I think last year it was a little over 300 days a year.
That's crazy.
This year's going to be a little more.
You realize like most successful multi-platinum selling artists aren't even on the road that much.
Yeah, it catches up with you a little bit.
Yeah. But how's it catching up with you? Not that I've got some assumptions as
it's more that I want to be able to focus on really building out the great content that we want to provide at the Bar Institute. And I want to make sure that we're offering the best possible programming we can. And a lot of that is sort of predicated on having a little bit of time to think about it.
Yeah. How do you get centered on the road? I find that's really difficult. But traveling is not a place to get calm or get centered,
I think I do it so much that I'm actually a little bit more on edge when I'm home, and that's the truth.
Different tempo, yeah.
If I'm at a Starwood hotel and I flew a Delta flight, that's my routine. My routine is go check in for the flight. Delta takes very good care of me. I go through TSA pre-check. Yeah. I'm on the flight. They put me in first class. God bless them.
Yes. I'm sure you fly enough that they've got no problem with that.
Yes, no, they take very good care of me. I land, I get in a car, I get in an Uber usually, or I get in a car, I go to the Starwood Hotel, I check in. They also take really good care of me. And I'm at that moment, I can plug in and I can work and I can really focus because I'm used to
expect, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's an interesting way to flip it. Like, so if you travel the minority of the time, then that's the time that it seems like really hard because you're getting your bearings. But if you're always traveling,
it's like going. It's my commute, right?
Yeah.
And my commute's a little longer than some other people's, but sometimes it's shorter. Sometimes it's easier.
That's exactly.
Seldom, but sometimes.
Yeah. Does it ever get hard to balance? This is a struggle I've had personally. One, owning a distillery, and two, really loving bourbon. It's like it doesn't keep me away from spirits very often. How do you make that time to stay away from the booze as well?
I honestly drink so much less than anyone thinks I do.
Yeah, it's all the pictures.
I know. I'm a little tricky.
You know what you're doing. You know how to manage a brand.
Yeah,
I can tell.
I mean, it's important that I try every drink that I post. I have tried.
Sure.
Saying that I finished them is maybe not true.
But that's good. That's a nice compromise.
Exactly. Because I'm really curious about what people are doing and how they're making drinks and how they're thinking about presenting cocktails. Yeah. So it's really important that I order them and I try them. It's really easy when I'm on the road with the really great team that I'm on the road with right now. There are 5 of us, so it makes it.
Name through who's on the road with you right now?
Sure. I have Melody Buell, who's my events director.
Cool.
I have Brittany Leach, who we hired earlier this year. Brittany was a counselor at Camp Run Amok. She's a bartender from Birmingham, Alabama, who was then a counselor at Camp Run Amok, and then she was on our varsity program at Portland Cocktail Week.
Very cool.
And we do our very best to hire one person from those programs every year to be a part of our events team, because I think it keeps those programs real, and it also... I mean, come on, who doesn't want Brittany on their team? She's such she's amazing. She's truly amazing.
I'm
she's
sure.
The
I mean,
hardest working girl in the
you got an
world.
eye for talent. So obviously,
Man,
your
that
team
girl,
is really great.
she's got all this energy, and she's just so smart and so spunky and so cool.
Amazing.
And we brought David Kwan on our team.
Okay.
He was also comes from the bar world.
Cool.
He's with us right now. He was a bartender in Tucson, moved up to San Francisco, worked up at Hardwater and the Double Standard, a couple of other places up there.
Very good.
Yeah, great resume.
So you got
guy.
a dream team.
Really, yes. I'm so lucky that we can look to the really amazing pool of talent that exists in the bar world and say, hey, if you're interested in joining our side of the team, we'd really love to have you. And they've been such a huge asset.
You're offering other career outlets, which is really wonderful.
I think it's really important, especially if we treat our programs like internship programs.
Yeah.
And I think it's not cool to have an internship program that never hires.
Right. Like, that's just a cock tease. I'm just going to put it that way, right? Like,
you're
going to work for me for free for 12 months. Are you going to hire me?
Yeah, we don't do that.
No,
it's
great.
I think it's really important, and we try to make one job. Like I said, we make one job available pretty much per year for that program,
which is wonderful.
And all the success in the world from it. Seriously, the best people that we have on some of the best people we have on our team.
One is because you treat them well. And
it's partly that, and partly they're just bartenders are the best.
Yeah.
They're so smart and they care so much about what they're doing.
Yeah.
And anyone who's going to put that level of care and attention into a drink is also going to do the same for the guest experience at an event.
Yeah.
And I'm so lucky to have them. I love them.
It's good. I love chatting with bartenders because actually the title bartender is a ruse. We get a couple minutes because it's not like, because there are people that have amazing stories. It's not really about the bartending.
Yeah.
It's about the lives in general.
Of course.
So the thing I'm really curious about, and we'll wrap on this, but you're in Louisville. You've got 4 bedrooms. Mm-hmm. So perhaps you start a family. We won't even talk about that. But what is after Lush Life? Because I know you're thinking. You're thinking about things.
I don't know that there's ever going to be an after Lush Life. I think Lush Life's always going to exist, and I want to keep it alive.
But you'll hand it off in some capacity, it feels like, right?
I mean, I have such a great team, and honestly, so much of the work is managed by those guys, and they're so amazing. I'm so lucky to have them. Mm. I think that we are definitely on to bigger every year.
Every year, yeah.
And, Bar Institute is certainly a step in that direction for the events programming. Mm. We really want to assert what we can do and provide that top level education across the country. And I think Bar Institute is a big step in that direction. And I think we're going to continue taking huge strides to provide really top quality education for career training in the bar world.
Let's focus on you. Yeah, because we talked about one thing, and you don't have to name a brand or anything.
Sure.
But would you like your own bourbon company?
I don't know that I want bourbon. I don't know. I think there are a couple of opportunities that are like ripe for the picking, right?
Sure.
Like there's one thing in particular that is silly that we're not capitalizing on more.
Yeah.
And I'm taking steps every day, teeny tiny baby steps every day to sort of get closer to building out some of these other ideas and some of these other companies that I want to start. Yeah. But until I get this right, until I'm fulfilling my responsibility to the bar community, which is really how I see Bar Institute, I'm not going to commit myself to anything that
soon. I'm sure soon enough.
I hope
right?
So.
Yeah.
I hope so. That's the thing. I'm never going to not have ideas.
Yeah.
I'm always going to want to do the next thing, the next bigger thing. But I think it's really important to get the things that you already started right before you move on to that next step.
Absolutely. And so I'm really excited about the Bar Institute, how it's going to be a touring program ending at 12. I mean, I think it's going to it's going to socialize education so much better and behind the bar and all these kinds of things. But the thing that I really want to thank you for is you've been since like a hub for me. You've introduced me. I've been traveling a bit lately in the past couple of years, and you've introduced me to some of the most wonderful people.
Good.
So relationships that I've still maintained, and you are just a wonderful anchor in this industry.
Thank
and
you.
I feel like the love you have for other people, you're just spreading it.
Well, thank you.
And it's been really wonderful for me to even have met you and had the courtesy and the kindness that you've offered me when I've been traveling specifically. So thank you so much for that.
You're very welcome. And good attracts good. You're one of the good guys.
Maybe we'll see.
Please. You're one of the good guys.
I'm all right.
You're pretty great.
Thanks, man. Thank you.
No, but that's how it goes.
Yeah.
We are, I feel like we're really in service to each other. And if we're not in service to each other, then we're doing it wrong. So that, it all kind of goes back to that.
Yeah. Well, it's wonderful. And again, thanks so much. And
thank you.
You've got an amazingly hectic touring schedule. And the fact you came to sit down with me.
Oh, please.
Thanks for sharing
Anytime.
a bourbon with me.
Thank you for sharing this whiskey with me. It's incredible.
It was wonderful. My pleasure. Thank you, Lindsey.
Thank you.
Well, there we have it. The Renaissance woman, Lindsey Johnson. She continues to inspire. She continues to educate and find great ways to bring us all closer as people, but all closer professionally too in this hectic industry. The fact that she is essentially the U2 of touring and she took some time out to chat with me in this wee little bedroom in Austin, Texas means a whole lot. Thank you so much, Lindsey, for not only sharing some amazing Russell's Reserve with me, but just taking some time out to shoot the shit. So can't wait to see what Bar Institute brings to Austin in June. And hopefully I'll get to talk to a whole lot of you guys in attendance. So thanks again for listening to Show to V with Mike G, and please keep dancing.